An effort to unseat the most powerful Republican in Wisconsin's legislature is underway. A group working to recall Assembly Speaker Robin Vos says they have enough signatures for a recall election. Our Wisconsin State Capitol Bureau Chief Vanessa Kelson has more about why they want a recall.
We're here outside the Wisconsin Election Commission where the signatures to recall Republican Assembly Speaker Robin Vos were just delivered.
And you're dropping off an estimated 10,702 signatures?
That's correct, Riley.
Matthew Snorek started the recall effort earlier this year after Vos refused to impeach the state's top election official who oversaw the 2020 election.
It's time for change. We demand an election process that we can trust.
Vos refused to decertify the 2020 election that President Biden won by about 20,000 votes. That margin has been upheld by 2 county recounts, numerous lawsuits, and a state Supreme Court ruling. But this Vos recall supporter still disagrees.
And for me, elections are the #1 problem that we have in this country.
Recall Vos. The group organizing the petition also now claims Vos is affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party through the State Legislative Leader Foundation.
We just discovered that 3 or 4 days ago.
The foundation says that's, quote, absurd and offensive. The Wisconsin Elections Commission will determine the validity of the signatures submitted. They need nearly 7,000 for a recall election.
So what happens with this is our staff will go through and perform a review, making sure that signatures are sufficient, information is presented there.
Vos questions the validity of the signatures, writing in a statement, quote, "It's truly sad that a group of people who didn't get their way in the 2020 election are wasting resources and effort working with Democrats to settle a political score."
The petitioner says he expects a legal challenge over the signatures. In Madison, Vanessa Kelson.